Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast for fans of the Detroit Lions. And after the day, it's kind of tough, right? Other football teams or the Detroit teams, whatever you're a fan of, I appreciate it. My name is Demetrius. I always acknowledge the Godfather, Mike Ward, the super producer extraordinaire. We are week 9, I want to say, of the 2025 NFL season. 9, maybe 10. 9 is right. Okay. So, every now and then, for the most part, I love this podcast. When I don't do a podcast, understand there's a good reason. It is probably something medical or travel, or there's a really, really good reason I can't do it because I enjoy it. One might think that I don't enjoy it right now, that I won't enjoy it today, that this is not a podcast that I want to do. That is a logical assumption. I don't blame anybody for thinking that. But that's actually not true. So there is a degree of when I watch a game like we watched today, what the podcast does for me is it allows me to get through it. Whatever we do here, 30 minutes today or 35 minutes, whatever it end up doing, 40 minutes, I don't know. Very, very freestyle today. I got a whole bunch of thoughts. But what happens is when I'm done, and hopefully for you too, we've broken it down, we get what happens, we move on with our lives. If not, I might fester. And so, today should be good when I'm done. It's going to be rough because I said today was a podcast for fans of the Detroit Lions. Pissed off fans of the Detroit Lions is probably more accurate. I apologize in advance. There'll be a lot of water. There was yelling at the screen for the better part of 3 hours and frustration. So we're going to jump into a pretty straightforward to the format. This podcast, for anybody who might be new, is really just about, in general, we're optimistic. It's easier when we win than when we lose. But I want to walk through what I think I saw. And a lot of it is for me and my friends to get through it. Hopefully, if you're a fan and you're watching it, it helps you get through it too. So I'm going to jump right in. Today is basically some high-level stuff. Then I'm going to break down some key moments of the game. And then we'll do our 3 questions. So nothing fancy today. We're going to pretty much stick to the format. And no, the Jared Goff jersey isn't coming down for the dude who is blaming Goff for today's loss. So high level, 27-24, I think was the final, home to Minnesota. I'm going to be, if you're watching, you know who I am. The Lions are better than Minnesota. That's not a shot at Minnesota. They did what they had to do to win the game. And sometimes if the other team doesn't show up to play, you can go into their building. You can do the things you do well, and you can create a game that you can win. And what I mean by that is the Lions didn't really lead, didn't put any pressure on their young quarterback to do anything special. They stayed within themselves. They did what they do really well, which is creative blitzes and confusion offensively. They took advantage of our injury/youth on the interior of the offensive line. If I say the term A gap a lot today, just upfront, it's right up the middle, right? They were doing blitzes, a lot of blitzes in the A gap, either side of the center, between the center and guard on either side, right? This is where they were coming all day. They knew something. They saw something on film that said that's how we create havoc. It's not a coincidence that one of the guards is a rookie and the other is a second-year guy. That's not by mistake. Credit them, credit their. That's what coaches do. That's what good coaches do. Their offensive side, they move their quarterback around. They created a bunch of get the ball out of his hands quickly stuff. They coached so well today. And my brother sent the text late in the game. We got outcoached. One of my other brothers, right, feels like it was about the bye week. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. As we go through, we'll talk about it. He'll probably be on and let me know what he thinks. I'm not sure I'm going to blame the bye week because you took the week off 2 weeks ago. You did a normal week of practice this past week. The bye week shouldn't have been an issue. So high level, They looked rusty. Personally, I don't like the blueberries anymore. That's a side note. The blue on blue uniforms, don't love them. But everybody didn't show up today. That's probably grammatically the wrong way to put it. They like to talk about complimentary football. When they win games, they say, hey, the defense gave us short fields. Special teams gave us short fields. They put the offense in a position to be successful. The punter buried the other team inside the 10 and gave the defense a chance to flip the field, right? That's complimentary football. Today was whatever the opposite of that is. For me, today was, this is the kind of thing that has people who don't really know football or who lead with their emotions. They can know football, but they lead with their emotions. They're going to start saying SOL and stuff like that. To me, it was just a bad game. And it was a bad game by literally everyone, right? I will often say I like the football product, but what I'm most happy about the last 2.5, 3 years as a Lions fan is I like the organization. I like the toughness of that guy, no matter what his uniform number is. It could be Penei Sewell. It could be somebody whose name I barely know. Because the organizational culture is such that if the Lions sign you, when you show up in that locker room, when you show up in the building, if you're a new accountant for the Lions, he's tough. The janitor's tough. Today was the first time in a long time that I didn't feel like that. Right? Today was an organizational loss. And so one guy hit me and said, are you going to do the blame pie thing? I said, no, not really. There's not enough to go around. Everybody gets a piece today. Everybody failed. I mean, 16 jersey ain't coming down. He didn't play well today. I'm not going to try and trick anybody and suggest he played well. Now, there's factors for why he didn't play well. But this was an organizational loss. It was inexplicable because I still tell you I believe the Lions are the better team. And there's a man in Minneapolis waiting to talk to me on another podcast later this week to give me the business, right? Because he is feeling good right now. And he believes I'm feeling bad. And that's just because he doesn't understand how I function. Whatever is tossed life-wise at me, I'm going to just keep going. This is just a football game. This is nothing. Real life stuff is way harder and way more important. This is nothing. My team lost a game today, right? But I don't like how they lost, right? This is the kind of stuff that's going to have people saying things that irritate me about this football team. They're still 5-3, and the Packers lost. So they literally lost no ground. They're half game out of first. They still play the Packers on Thanksgiving. Everything they want to do is still in front of them. Win the North, host a home playoff game. None of that matters. But what you're going to get all week on the radio in the afternoon is all of those guys. Those guys who have just been waiting in the wings for better parts of 2 years to come out and say stuff. And they're gonna revisit every win and suggest the Lions didn't beat anybody good. And Cleveland and Cincinnati aren't that good. Those wins, the Bears are whatever. That's what they're gonna do. Bears won again, are starting to look really good, but they're gonna revisit every win and question if it was good. And they're gonna look hard at the losses and say when they played good teams, Kansas City, Green Bay, we lost, right? That's fair. I can't push back on any of that right now as we sit here, because if we go through the pie, everybody had a bad day. The coaches had a bad day. Everybody knows I love Dan Campbell. Everybody had a bad day today. The offense wasn't creative. They had a point where I think they went 3 and out 3 straight times. The defense, particularly against the run, was getting gashed, which in theory should be a strength of this football team. So everybody, the offensive line certainly didn't play well. My quarterback didn't play well. I don't know if you blame running backs when the offensive line played poorly. I think the offensive line play contributed to both Goff and the running game, but some of that is play calling. It was just sloppy. I used the word sloppy in the descriptor. It was a sloppy game all around. Everybody didn't show up. Again, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but everybody didn't show up. This is a running team, and when they can't get the special teams was subpar. They gave up 2 long returns, one touchdown that got called back because of a penalty. They gave up a blocked field goal. Like everybody did their part in this crappy loss. And sometimes they do that in a win. Sometimes they did, the Vikings did their part, by the way. It is. I'm not diminishing the Vikings. If I think they're a good football team or not is irrelevant. they played better today. Make no mistake. And that's the trick with the NFL. And we talked about this. We've done grades and said if you show up and you play a C+ game, a bunch of teams in this league will beat you. We talked about how it doesn't matter where the game is. I don't care where the game is played. Most teams in the league give the Lions a game today. There's 12, 15 teams in the league beat the Lions today, no matter where the game is played, if you play that effort. Penalties are a part of it. Costly penalties, dumb penalties. They did everything to contribute to losing this game. So it's not hard to analyze this game. It kind of sucks. There were some injuries I didn't love, but at the bye week thing that Terrence is throwing at me, I don't know, bro. I don't know. It was making sense during the game, but I think that their bye week was not this past week. They went through a normal week of practice. I didn't hear anything special. They got guys back. This effort should have been better. This is everybody. So I'm not going to point at one individual guy. It's too many, right? Like we used to do on the positive side. There's too many. It's too many. So my high level is just disappointing. It's a disappointing performance. I'm sure they feel the same way. I'm not saying anything they don't already feel. A very disappointing performance. Like this should have been after a bye week, come back healthy, a nice get right, solid, go do your business, get a win, get ready for these 2 tough road games. And now it opens up this box for people to say what they say, which is fine. It'll all go away, when you win. But it's disappointing. I admit disappointing. Kansas City wasn't disappointing. I thought Kansas City played well, right? Even Green Bay wasn't disappointing. They were on the high from the trade. It was the opener. It was there. This one was the first disappointing one. And it's tough because last year we didn't have one of these. The Washington game was this, right? The 2 regular season losses weren't like this, where the Lions just played peanut butter spread across every element of the organization, an absolute poor game, right? There are descriptors, but I'm trying not to cuss. And this game is ripe for many swear words, but we're not going to do that today. So we're going to talk about the game and then take some questions. So should have been, you're the better team. You're at home coming off a bye. It shouldn't have been like this, right? The first drive was excellent. We'll call that the Sam Laporta drive, right? Really good drive. Goff was sharp. I thought maybe they were going to exploit something there. But Minnesota gets a great kick return and immediately answers. And then the second drive. And that was, I immediately had concerns because the word I think I used, I text my friend Art, I text my brothers, I think I used the word disjointed. And they, even in Kansas City or early against Green Bay, they didn't really look disjointed. Right. So Andy brings up this great point of, as much as I like 16, I'm honest enough to tell you he has played behind a really good offensive line most of the time in Detroit. And when the offensive line doesn't perform, he looks like a different guy. He had a game last year against Minnesota, ironically, where he went 18 for 18. This is where the thing about him is. And you can say that about, I think, most quarterbacks, not named Mahomes or maybe Allen, possibly Joe Burrow. The offensive line has to protect them or play well for them to be good. If you take out those 3 or 4 guys, maybe Herbert, possibly Lamar, where are all these guys who can play really, really well? Now, forget play well, who win games behind a bad offensive line. That's the list you can give me if you want to have a golf conversation. Because I don't think Jordan Love is great anyway. And I think if he was playing behind a subpar line, he would be even less great. I don't believe that Jalen Hurts is great. I think that system utilizes his best skills, so he's really good. You get outside of those guys, who are these guys? When Stafford's line wasn't good, Stafford might also be an exception. So there's a short list, right? But I think Jared Goff, to Andy's point, Jared Goff needs a good offensive line to play well. And today they weren't good. They weren't good at all. I don't know that the play calling helped. And I always struggle with how do you evaluate play calling? When the run's not working, but you're a running team, do you just keep running? do you go outside of what you do? We're in a game that was close. It was a one-score game most of the day. So there was never a need to deviate heavily from who you are. But I felt like they stopped trying to get the run going. And maybe there's a point in time where you say, they're not going to let us run today, because you got to give the other guys credit. Maybe Minnesota said, we're going to blitz him from a bunch of angles. We're going to do a bunch of twist games. We're going to rush the A-gap. We're going to do everything we can to overwhelm those two young guards, shut down their run, and make Goff nervous. If that was the plan Wednesday, they did it. In their meeting, they did it. You got to give them credit. They were gashing the Lions throughout the game, though. They got clunky on defense. There was a big 3rd and 9 play to St. Brown. I thought, okay, maybe we're going to get going. And then they came back and blitzed, I think, back-to-back plays. And the whole first quarter was sluggish, and it was 14-7 Vikings at the end of one. And I was thinking to myself, I don't really like this. I wasn't nearly at a place. Terrence gave up middle of the third quarter, and I'm still mad at you about that if you're listening. It's way too early for you to give up. Early second, though, the defense got a big stand, flipped the field. We get the David Montgomery attitude touchdown and tie the game. And I thought, okay, we're fine. And so then what you're watching now is not as much about the score, but I don't like the way they look. I don't like the way they look. That was that complimentary thing where they had gotten a stop on defense. And when Minnesota punted, the Lions got a short field. That's the kind of thing they were talking about. Didn't happen much. The Hutch personal foul play, I think some people will disagree. I think it was legit. I think it was stupid play. I love Hutch. Hutch is a beast. But every now and then, Hutch is aggressive. And he just kicked him. I mean, if you watch that replay, he just took his left leg and he kicked him in the thigh/knee. That's an easy call, actually. I don't think it was a cheap call. I don't think it was a bad call. I think it was an easy call. And the rest had to make it. Once I saw the replay, I could see the intentional kick by Hutch. They're going to call that. You can get mad. They're going to call that, right? But then, you would see back and forth. If that would have been the other way around, I'd have been pissed had they not called it, right? Jack Campbell played well. He's one of the people I will call out. He made a big play in the second quarter. But then he got a call that was just a bad call. And I didn't love that. But the first half ended kind of weird. Terry and Arnold got an interception. My brother was pissed. But they didn't get any points, so they go in down 3 at halftime. And at halftime, I think the feeling was, there's no way we can play that poorly in the second half, right? You assume the Lions are going to play better. And if you're still an objective person, or even not objective, you know who the better team is on paper, no matter what you're seeing. And a half of a football game is an enormous amount of time. The Lions could turn it around and play better. At least that was the hope. That was the thought process. But they came out, they got the ball early in the second half, and you get the stop and you force the punt. And I remember saying, I feel like they need points. And this is early third. Not quite time to give up like Terrence did, but I'm picking on Terrence for giving up so early. That felt like a pivotal moment of the game. And then there was this weird call. Wait, no, never mind, no call. I don't know what you saw, what you didn't see. Why are you saying there's a call and there's not a call? But the challenge, then they get that non-catch by, was it Addison? No, it was Jefferson. Challenged it, barely made it in time to get the challenge in. You forced a punt, and here it is again. You need to get going. You've had 3 straight 3-and-outs. You're down 3. Huge opportunity to get going, and you get the play. And Demo breaks it open. And this is the point of the game, right? Everybody's got a different moment. Maybe you think it was some other play. To me, that's the play. It's a 17-14 game. He has gotten the first down. I think it was third down, by the way. And that if he doesn't, and it got punched out. So it truly wasn't, it's not like Montgomery fumbled. The guy comes from behind, can't remember his name, comes from behind and punches it out, much like a meat tends to do to other teams. That was the play of the game. That was the play of the game because we got the crowd back in. we probably would have gotten points minimum. We passed on a field goal earlier. We got a field goal blocked earlier. There are people who are going to try and start a conversation around the going for it on fourth down and different things that we do bite us. I don't buy that. Statistically, if you break down those choices, they don't. That's the play of the game to me. And it happened in the third quarter in the 3-point game, the David Montgomery fumble. It changed everything. It changed the momentum. It changed the field. It changed everything. And at that point, they get the ball there in the red zone, and you got an opportunity to hold them to a field goal, keep the game, and you allowed the guy to make a play with his feet, which we normally struggle with. We have struggled with historically, but Anzalone took a horrible angle. I'm not beating up Anzalone because I love Alex Anzalone, but on that play, he either misjudged how quick JJ was, or he just took a bad angle. But Anzalone had a chance to make that play, and it's little things like that. When you add up 7, 8, 10 of those over the course of a game, that's how you lose. That's how you lose. It's a penalty here. It's a drop ball there. And St. Brown doesn't drop a lot, but he dropped one today. Hit him in both hands. Got to catch it, right? They score there. Now you're in the late third and you're down 10. Terrence is checked out, but you're moving the ball and penalties. That penalty kills a drive, right? And sometimes you're sitting there wondering, what do they need to do? And that was a moment where I wondered, you got to find a way to get JMO involved. I was prepared to come onto this podcast and have somebody, one of the questions, or somebody say, what is the JMO problem? Which I've dubbed it the JMO problem. And what I thought it was why is it so difficult? Why are you allowing other teams to scheme you out of throwing the ball to JMO? Because that's the explanation I got last week was the other teams are doing things that don't allow you to throw to JMO. And I am struggling with that. But they woke up with JMO in the fourth quarter and they started making plays, right? The blitzes were still getting home. The blitzes were still confusing Goff. I don't want to use confusing. That might be harsh. They were just giving them difficulties. It was confusing the O-line, and they were taking Goff off of his spot. Goff is very much a timing guy, right? And so late in the third, you're down. You needed a play, right? Yeah, JMO had a big day. Jack Campbell had a big game. Andy says JMO came through more than anyone today. I can't disagree with that. When it was time to step up, you got the field goal. Now you're back within 7. JMO made plays, right? He got a really bad penalty though, which I don't agree with that. The block in the back, that might have been a bad call. I would fight that one more than a Hutch kick, right? But they made a big fourth down conversion, and I'm not sure I would have went for to Laporta on a great throw by Goff. But at that point, they had 9 penalties for 75 yards. And the number might not seem big, although it's a lot of yards. Those penalties were hurting, though. Those penalties were hurting. And then they get them to jump off sides on fourth down. You get the JMO play, and now, you're 27-24. You still got a chance. All you need to do is make one play, right? And the defense couldn't. You need to make that one play. And I'm not blaming that kid. If he turns his head around, he can probably knock that away. If he gets his hands up, he can probably knock that away. If we get pressure on the quarterback, it's a more difficult throw. There's 100 things. But the analysis, the final analysis of the game can be very simple. When the Vikings needed to play, they found a way to make it. And when the Lions needed to play, they didn't. Outside of the big JMO touchdown, they didn't. They had a bunch of 3 and outs. They had a bunch of open possessions. And they just played really sloppy, lackluster. I could do a whole bunch of descriptors to describe what it looked like, right? And if you compare it to what you believe the Lions are, which I do, which is they're going to bring it every game. They're going to fight you to the end. This is the kneecap thing. They didn't bite any kneecaps today. And that was disappointing. That's what it was. So all right, let's do a couple questions and wrap this nonsense up. There were, Andy mentions drop passes. There were a few. I think JMO had a drop. I know St. Brown, like I said, had a drop that I thought he should. I'm not going to act like Goff was great today, though. And I have to acknowledge that. I just think it's everybody. I think a couple of plays where Gibbs missed a hole. I think he could have cut a play back, and it looked like there was room. Montgomery, same deal. It literally was everybody. Laporta had a good game, by the way. I don't want to disparage him. But all right, let's do some questions here. What's the first one? How long can we get away with these C+, C- games before we have to question if the Lions simply are just an average team? Huh. I mean, that's fair. I can't get mad. Even for an optimist like me, that's a fair question. I don't do the excuse thing. Like we've been on for 30 minutes already, and I've used words like disappointing and lackluster and sloppy. We know what we saw. I'm not trying to sell you a bill. I don't know if they're good. They're 5-3. I think they're good. I thought they were good. They might be good. I don't know. And great question, Andy. You can't do anything. Okay, so Andy's question is, if the line can't hold, what do we do about Goff? There's no doing anything about Goff. Goff's our quarterback, bro. I'm not saying that because I'm a massive Goff fan. Your question might be, do we change the scheme, right? Do we call plays differently? I think that Brian Flores is a unique defensive coordinator. He blitzes more than anybody in the league statistically. So you're not going to see what you saw today every week. Simply put, though, at some point, the game's going to be win or go home, and that game might be against Minnesota. Or that defense coordinator might just take the Brian Flores approach. If you show that you can't handle that, and we'll get them again later in the year in Minnesota, there's no doing anything about Goff. There's no, what do we do about Goff? We line him up, we let him play. If Jared Goff goes down, none of it matters. And maybe that was your point. They're going to get Goff hurt. What do we do then? It's the Kyle Allen show, and this whole podcast changes. In terms of, when do we acknowledge that they might not be good? Yeah, that's a great question, right? I can't argue your question after a performance like this. They rarely look like they're not ready to play. They rarely look like they're not prepared. They rarely get, in my mind, outcoached. And when Kenny texted that earlier than I was prepared to hear, I was like, I don't know if it's coaching. And then I just started to feel like, damn, he might be right. Execution is still an issue. Players execute or don't. But if they're not in a position, or they're not in the right scheme, or they're not in the right play to execute, because, and what I mean by that, and I'm not trying to be like I'm smart guy. Most of you guys know what I mean. If you call a play that needs to develop, anything with JMO getting down the field, Goff has to have time. That play has to develop. Even if it's something that St. Brown goes underneath, if that's a 12 or 15-yard route, Goff's got to have time to let that develop. So now if you call that play and the players don't execute, is it the player's fault? When you know your guards are having a rough day and Flores is sending A-gap blitzes and killing you, is it you calling these long developing plays that you know you can't execute? And to maybe what Andy's point was, you're going to get Jared Goff killed, right? Is it the play calling, or is it the players? If you're calling something you know I can't do, is it my fault or is it your fault? If you're calling something you know they have schemed up for, if you are calling plays that they have shown you through 2 quarters, through 3 quarters, they are defending. But then it goes back to the Lions are a running team. And if the other team is playing to run well, do you stop running and lose the game doing shit you're not good at, doing stuff you're not good at? Or do you keep trying to run because you run? That's what you do. I don't know. These are like all great questions. To me, if you give Goff a reasonable amount of time for the play that's called, my feeling, and the data supports my feeling, he executes. That's what he does. But the O-line drop-off is becoming real. Like the loss of Frank Ragnow landed today. Today, I thought about Frank Ragnow a lot. And okay, I had not spent a lot of time. Oh, I don't ever think about Ben Johnson. I'm going to give a shit about Ben Johnson. I thought about Frank Ragnow today, right? Every team in the league has holes, right? So first we have to accept that to sort of answer your question. How do we decide if they're a good team or not? So every team in the league has holes. Let's start with that premise. The Lions' holes are becoming clearer to us as fans, clearer to the rest of the league, and maybe clear to them. By the way, Tuesday is the trade deadline. If Mahogany's knee/ankle looked like an ankle, they said knee. If that's really bad, and he was sort of doing the wave, like, see y'all next year, expect him to make a move on the offensive line. Everybody thinks they should make a move at corner, and maybe they should. Or people think they need. I think what the trade you might see is something on the offensive line. Decker went out but came back. So I would expect some activity in the next couple of days, probably around the offensive line. My shorter answer to your question is I still think this is an 11 or 12 win team. I'm sticking with 12. Do I think there's 7 more wins on the schedule? Yeah, I do. I don't all of a sudden think we suck. I think we played poorly today. I still think there's 12 wins on the schedule. I think everything they want to do is still in front of them. You can beat the Vikings. You can beat the Packers. You can win this division. And you can still do everything you want to do. Yeah, Andy, he should be drinking the Kool-Aid, but that's who he is. And he's my brother, and I got to love him no matter what. Yeah, he should be drinking the Kool-Aid. But this is the thing. So my brother chimed in, for those of you who are not looking at the comments, and said we suck after a bye. I don't know if statistics support that. I didn't look it up. I will, because I'm going to call him out. And Andy's question to him, I think, was, shouldn't you be drinking the Kool-Aid? Yes, he's my brother. He should be, Andy. But he is a very pragmatic Lions fan. He is a very sorry, I totally misunderstood Andy's point. I'm drinking water. He said, should not be drinking Kool-Aid. Very well done. I don't have any blue Kool-Aid today. Good call. I'm gonna start doing that for the podcast. I thought he metaphorically meant, shouldn't my brother be more supportive? Kenny loves the Lions no matter what he puts in the comments, guys. I should be drinking Kool-Aid, and I will. My final thought on the how do we know? The NFL is a tricky deal. They lost today. They definitely didn't get beat today. They lost today. They contributed to this loss on every level. Coaching, offense, defense, special teams, quarterback, corners. Kenny's favorite corner got his first interception, but he didn't play great. So everybody contributed. This is a loss. Kansas City probably beat us. And Green Bay was so long ago, I barely remember. I don't think the Lions played well, but I think the Packers played well enough that I would call that getting beat. And the difference, I've said many times, when you don't play well, when you turn the ball over, when you make mistakes, when you have penalties, when you do dumb things, when you don't execute, and you help the other team gain the victory, that's a loss. When the other team plays really, really well to their capability, and on that day, they just play better. Last year's Buffalo game, Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. You got beat. And when you get beat, you can just shake the other team's hand and say, congratulations, nice win. Today was a loss. Everybody contributed. It sucked. But let me answer your question. Sorry. The question is, how long can we get away with these games? 2 weeks, right? It's 2 weeks. You go to Washington, you go to Philly. You go get road wins at Washington and Philly. The narrative changes. I come back, and we're back where we think we should be. I have not bailed yet. I still see 7 more wins on this schedule because I still think it's them, and they have a demonstrated history of fixing it, right? Terrence texted me earlier. I feel good about next week because we don't lose 2 in a row. And he's right. In like 3 years since they lost 2 games in a row. And if you believe in statistics, and if you listen to this podcast, you know I do. Yeah, bodes well for next week. Plus, I think the Lions are the better team, right? And this should light a fire. Not that a Dan Campbell coach team should need a fire. I cannot imagine practice is going to be fun this week. I cannot imagine that coaches' meetings are going to be fun this week. I expect an exceptional performance next week. I expect an A-, A+ effort. I expect a solid win on the road. But the answer to your question is, how long do we have to wait? Not long. If they go shit the bed in Washington like they did today, sorry, guys, my language. I mean, I've been trying to work on that, but sometimes it is what it is. If they go play poorly in Washington and lose, and we're really going to feel weird going into Philly and they lose both of these games, then 2 weeks from now, our conversation is as different as it's been in 3 years. We're having a different kind of podcast then. I don't expect that, but I'm an optimist who always thinks that. So, all right, let's get another one. What are your thoughts on the officiating in this league? Oh, boy. Okay. All right, so we're just going to be real. I'm not the dude that blames refs in general, but I've had a long-standing issue with officiating in this league. Some of it is the performance of the refs. Some of it is the way the league approaches their refs, the way they approach officiating in their game. Some of it is the rule. Some of it is, the rule or rules themselves. Some of the rules are so nebulous and vague, they put these men in a tough spot. The whole Kansas City conspiracy aside, I don't generally do conspiracies other than the most famous conspiracy of all time, but I'll do a Kennedy assassination podcast another day. The Kansas City thing is weird. All the data that people have put together around calls, and the league has a problem with its refs. Here's my opinion. This league has a problem with its officiating, a very, very bad problem. It is partly they are in bed with gambling organizations now. So the integrity of the shield is what they like to say. With each one of these horrific calls, game-changing calls, one-sided calls, nonsensical calls, every time the refs do something weird, like the Lions touchdown in Kansas City, like today, there was a call, and then there was a 90-second pause, and then there was second thought, no penalty. I'm sorry, what the hell is that? I don't know how that happens. My understanding of how this works is that you see something. You say, that is a violation of Rule X. You grab your flag and you throw it. Now, if you're telling me we are shifting to some dude sitting in a chair in New York is calling down and saying, yeah, that's not what that is. And you go, okay, then tell me a dude in New York saw a better angle than I did and corrected my mistake. Here's the problem. The dude in New York better be right. The dude in New York better be right? Because I can live as a fan, I don't know if everybody feels this way, as a fan, I can live with the aspect of human error in the game. I was never a dude that, there was some egregious stuff. There was a Saints, Vikings maybe, playoff game maybe 10 years ago that sucked. That was egregious. I think the Calvin Johnson rule was sucked for the Lions. That was more about an unclear rule, right? I think there was a Des Bryant play with Dallas. There was a picked up flag with Brandon Pettigrew, Lions, Dallas, 2012, 2014, I don't know. Those didn't make sense. I can live with the human being that is the official making a mistake. We can live with it. The egregious ones, but now we've gotten into this deal where there's some dude in New York. Okay. If that's what we're going to do, because you have an option. You have the option of making the refs full-time. Yes. Do you have to pay them more? Sure you do. Of course you do. Make them full-time. I don't need this dude being an accountant in the offseason or working at the library, delivering mail. Nothing against those jobs. This can't be his side hustle. Reffing NFL game, not when people are betting now. This is what I'm saying. People are putting money on these games. You are in bed with gambling organizations, and ESPN's got their own site. You changed 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it was, you tried to stay away from Vegas. You didn't want to get in bed with all of this. You made that decision that you would do it. You put a team in Vegas. You are partnering with sites. You're in bed with gambling. So now you cannot have these guys altering games. You cannot have these guys altering scores. You cannot do it. If you do it, at minimum, you make them full-time. You pay them full-time. In the offseason, they do what the players do. They train. They study the rule book. They watch film. You create games for them to go practice officiating. You make them full-time employees, let them unionize, whatever. Is it going to cost you? Yeah. If you don't do that, here's the risk you're running. And this is not this is my opinion. You're in a different world now. You're in a different world. Sorry. Andy's killing me. Andy's killing me in the comments. You're in a different world now. The integrity of your game is now everything. If people who are betting their rent money, people who run the sports books, don't trust the integrity of your product. You want to talk about taking the game down? CTE didn't take your game down because you don't really give a shit about head injuries of your players. I'm fine with that. They're grown men. They know what they have choices. They have choices. But you don't. You played the game. You act like you cared about player safety. You don't. Oh, the Guardian helmet, blah, blah, blah. You don't give a damn about player safety. Okay, cool. That didn't take your game down. People are like, oh, moms are going to stop letting their little boys play Pop Warner football. It's too dangerous. They were never really concerned about that. This league knows that they have the best business model potentially in the history of the world. They print money. Their arrogance, their hubris, that's what will take them down. And the thing that will is this. When the integrity of your product gets questioned, if this Kansas City officiating thing got legs and people actually start to buy it and they start to put data around it and people question your game, they question your officials. There were two things that happened in today's game didn't make sense to me. I'm not going to do a whole podcast about why they're picking up flags. Your option, if you don't want to have full-time refs and grade them and share their grades, have them sit down in front of the media, hold them accountable for their calls. Why did you make that call? And he can say, I saw the guy tug the jersey. We saw the call today. Or I'm sorry, this is a Michigan State thing yesterday. You see the call and you make the call. If you're not good enough, you need more training. But if you saw a call and you threw a flag, then you made the call. And if it turns out you were wrong, I'll live with it. Because you're a human being and you made a mistake. But now you're doing this. We got a dude in New York calling down. You didn't see it. You didn't call it. And some guy in New York. And then you lied to the media and say, oh, no, it wasn't a guy in New York. You're drawing questions yourselves. Because the other thing is, okay, then tell us who's the dude in New York. That's all you got to do. Put him on the screen. Let him say, this is what I see. This is why this call is that. You're not going to get grief. Transparency, make your officials better, and empower the refs on the field. My preference would be the dudes on the field at the game make the calls. Don't have some dude in New York looking at a screen, because I can do that. And that's just going to be more subjective. The game went on for years with 9, 10, 11 dudes on the field, whatever it is, making the calls, getting most of them right and occasionally messing up. And if you train them better, the number they mess up goes down and they get more of them right. You have a really, really, really bad problem with the integrity of your game right now. And I don't know if the league cares what I think or realizes how bad this is. I think the National Football League every week with every one of these lies and lack of transparency and the games they play with some dude in New York. Okay. You're going to have a problem. And it's going to be bad. All right, one more. What was the biggest issue defensively? I assume you mean today. So I don't know if it's the biggest, but it is certainly an issue. Is the concept is called breaking contain. So on the defensive line, there are guys on the end, right? And I'm dumbing it down. Sorry for those of you who know what I mean by breaking contain. Hutchinson, as great as he is, does this a lot. The guy on the end, his job is to get to the quarterback. If they run a running play, he will crash down. And if they trick him into crashing down, the running back or tight end or the quarterback, somebody gets outside. This area should be contained in a straight line of the field. But if this guy crashes down, you have broken contain over here. Today, containment was a massive issue. They were having cutback runs that were busting open. It is difficult when they're running the ball as well as they were. Before Aaron Jones got hurt, they were gashing the Lions, right? Aggressiveness works for you most of the time. But sometimes you get too aggressive and you get roughing the passer calls. Hutch got another one of those today. Jack Campbell's was just a joke. I don't know what Jack Campbell's supposed to do. You can't hit him low. You certainly can't hit him high. He hits the guy square in the middle. He tries to break his own fall with both his arm and his knee. And they called it's got something to do with weight. I forgot what it's called. Landing on a guy with all your weight. I'm sorry. They got a term for it. It escapes me now. There's nothing Jack Campbell could have done better on that play. It was insane. But the Lions were getting pressure. J.J. McCarthy wasn't killing them with their feet. The penalties were a problem. The Lions were getting very, very costly, bad penalties, right? The back end wasn't really a problem today. Andy mentions Kirby, and I assume he means Kirby Joseph. Getting Kirby back will help. I don't think the back end was a problem today. I think they got dashed early in the running game. I think they gave the Vikings, so that's my answer. Contain, number one. They were getting gashed early in the running game. They gave the Vikings 3 short fields, and I want to say the Vikings got 17 points on short fields. Just you're doing nobody a favor when you're giving the other team short fields. And mostly because of that, JJ never felt stress. He never felt pressure in the game. Our offense didn't do their part. They should have put up a lot more points, and McCarthy should have been playing from behind, which is more stressful. They got to call more runs. They got to do more things, but they never really played from behind. They never put any stress on J.J. McCarthy. I think the Vikings led most of the game. Justin Jefferson played well. He had the touchdown. I don't even think he had 80 yards. I think Justin Jefferson was okay, but he didn't kill us. I think the answer to the question is that they gave Minnesota an easy day. They gave them an easy assignment. They didn't have to stress. They weren't playing from behind. They didn't have to throw a lot. The Lions committed penalties when we needed them to and dumb plays when they needed to. The offense never put any pressure. That last completion to Naylor might be the exception. That was a really good throw. So my short answer is the Vikings were never under any stress at all. JJ was never under any stress at all because the offense wasn't scoring. And the Vikings kind of did what they wanted to do. And it allowed them to just kind of play their game the way they wanted to play their game. And that's at the end of the day what it was. They gave them an easy assignment. Right. And when you do that, committing penalties, not executing, dropping passes, getting beat, your running game. So yeah, that's my answer. Contain, gashed in the running game, never really created any difficulty for JJ. That was the real show. And that's everybody. Some of that is Shep, some of that is Hutch, some of that is the guys in the middle. It was a group effort today. Tough for me to talk about and say, but today was a group effort. So we're going to circle back, go to Washington. Now this becomes a big game. Now this becomes a very big game. You don't drop 2 in a row. You can't go to 5-4. So Green Bay did you a favor. You said no, thank you. I haven't did a favor. I don't think Green Bay's that good and we'll take care of them on Thanksgiving. But you had an opportunity and you let it slip away today. So yeah, that's all I've got for this. And like I said, I'm going on about my day. So I hope appreciate those of you who join me. I always do. I appreciate the interaction, Andy, as I always do. I hope you have a good day, and I hope we have a better game to talk about next week when they go to Washington. And everybody have a good week and take care. Thanks.